Hello. I wanted to share yet another download. This is about the modern prophets that we're all experiencing right now. A bit of a shout out to them and kind of a reminder to everybody the big picture here. And that is, again, the Lord said he'd pour out his Holy Spirit in the end times. Your daughters and sons would prophesy, your young men would have visions, and your old men would dream. I think God was warning us that in these end times, it's urgent. He's got to get a lot of information out. He's using different people that he knew would step up to the plate and give his message. And they're doing the best they can. These are not people that have studied the Bible for 30 and 40 years. In fact, some of them will admit to you they don't even really know the verses in the Bible, and they're getting these downloads with the actual verses, and they're correlating with the message. Bottom line, God says that I'm not going to do anything without warning my people, and it'll be through the prophets. He also says, treat his prophets well. Don't ridicule them. Don't be mean to them. And he also says that if it's a false prophet, he's going to deal with them himself. So it's really up to him and that false prophet, if they are in fact a false prophet. But just a reminder that we're in a different situation right now, and they're doing the best they can. It occurred to me that I shared with you earlier that I'd had visions, and I shared one of my visions, and I think one of the reasons maybe God gave me that gift is maybe for this very moment. And that is, my visions never told the whole story. And it was only when I actually lived through what the vision was years later that I saw the whole story. And I think that could be the same thing with some of these prophets and seers and some of these downloads that people are having. And, maybe they're jumping the gun a little bit. And maybe they're speculating and they shouldn't be. But maybe cut them a little slack. And let me give you some examples on visions. I shared with you a vision I had where I was on the back deck with my mom talking to some men about the house. The view was better than it should have been, and I wondered why we would be talking to these men rather than my dad or my father, my dad or my brother. Fast forward a couple of years, I'm on the back porch with my mom, and it ends up being that the house had burned down, and that's why we were talking to all these contractors. Had I jumped the gun, when I first saw the vision, I would have thought, well, maybe the view's good because we added, windows at the back of the house, and that's why we can see through. I would have gotten it wrong. Okay. And so speculation is not good, but I can see why, folks could be not quite getting it right. Give you another example. At a vision that I was in a classroom, it smelled like chlorine. When I walked in, people were asking why it smelled like chlorine. And that was the end of the vision. A couple of years later, I am in a classroom. People are talking about why it smelled like chlorine, and they say it's because there's a pool next door. So again, had I speculated on the first vision without, really seeing it or understanding it, I would have thought maybe these kids are being poisoned with chlorine in the vents or something. Third vision example, I was vision of driving with a person that I knew was more than a friend, more than a family member. But then I had to go to the bathroom, and he didn't want to stop at a gas station, wanted to stop at something cleaner, nicer, like a restaurant. And I thought, oh, what a nice person. A couple of years later, 2-3 years later, I am driving with my boyfriend, and I have to make the stop, and he doesn't want me going into a gas station, wants me to go into a restaurant. And I remember thinking, bottom line, I did think, oh, how nice of him. And I remember my vision, of course, from earlier. But also, had I jumped the gun, maybe I'd have thought he was my husband or gotten it wrong somehow. So generally speaking, I could understand, again, a different modem. Obviously, visions are different than dreams. Dreams are different than downloads. But I could see, I'm trying to relate my own experiences of not having the total picture. And if I would have speculated, I would have probably gotten it wrong. Not all wrong, but part of it wrong. So go easy on them. They're young, inexperienced. They, they're doing the best they can. They put a lot on the line for God to share these messages. And God doesn't really have time to mess around here. He's trying to get us information. And so we should be looking at these people as a gift. And again, don't worry. If there's something wrong, God will deal with them. And yes, test them. And if they're getting everything wrong, well, clearly there's a mistake. But some of these people are getting it pretty accurately. And pretty quickly. You're not waiting 1,000 years to find out if it's true or not. I hope this helps someone that's having doubts about some of these people, or maybe you'll just look at them differently, or their messages a little bit differently. But again, this is what God planned, and it's happening. Thanks so much, and God bless.